The crystal wine glass shattered in my grip, sending shards across the mahogany dining table. Blood trickled down my palm, but I barely noticed the pain. What hurt more was the casual way my mother-in-law had just demanded I sign over my entire company to her precious son. I'm Zariah, and until 10 minutes ago, this was supposed to be a normal family dinner. Darling, you're bleeding. Vincent reached for my hand, but I pulled away. The concern in his voice felt hollow after his silence during his mother's speech. I'll get the first aid kit. Amber, my sister-in-law, hurried from the room. At least someone was acting normal. Vada dabbed her napkin at imaginary crumbs, her perfectly manicured nails gleaming under the chandelier light. Really, Zariah, there's no need for dramatics. What I'm suggesting is perfectly reasonable. The company would do better under Vincent's leadership. It's what's best for the family. Best for the family? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make Vincent flinch. I built Z-Tech from nothing. 5 years of 18-hour days, mortgaging my house, eating ramen noodles. Where was your concern for family then? Mother's right. Vincent finally spoke up. Think about it logically. The pressure's clearly getting to you. You're working too hard. Don't you dare. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Don't pretend this is about my well-being. Amber returned with the first aid kit, but I waved her away. The bleeding had almost stopped anyway. Zariah. Vada's voice took on that sickly sweet tone she used when trying to manipulate situations. You're being unreasonable. Vincent has the business experience. From working at his daddy's company? The one you handed to him on a silver platter? The words flew out before I could stop them. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Vada's face hardened, her usual mask of politeness cracking. I will not have you disrespect my late husband's memory. Then don't disrespect everything I've built. I turned to Vincent. Are you really okay with this? With trying to take my company? He wouldn't meet my eyes. It makes sense financially. We could merge operations, streamline everything. As husband and wife, you should be supporting me, not trying to steal my life's work. Nobody's stealing anything, Vada interrupted. We're simply suggesting a restructuring. The paperwork is already drawn up. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out a thick envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. Legal documents, transfer of ownership, everything ready to go. They'd planned this ambush down to the last detail. How long? I asked Vincent. How long have you been plotting this? Don't be dramatic, he sighed. Mother's just trying to help. How? Long. A few months, he admitted. But it's not plotting. It's planning for our future. I looked around the dining room, at the family photos on the walls. Vincent and me on our wedding day. Family vacations, Christmas mornings. 5 years of memories suddenly felt like elaborate staging for this moment. Zariah. Amber touched my arm gently. Maybe you should take some time to think about this. Oh, I don't need time. I grabbed my purse from the back of my chair. I built my company from the ground up. It's mine. End of discussion. You're making a mistake, Vada called after me as I headed for the door. Family should come first. I turned back one last time. You're right, Vada. Family should come first. Remember you said that. The drive home was a blur. I barely registered the familiar streets, my mind racing with possibilities. They'd shown their hand, revealed their true colors. Now I needed to figure out my next move. My phone buzzed with a text from Vincent. Come home. We can talk about this. Home. The word felt different now. Tainted. I typed back. Staying at a hotel tonight. Don't follow me. Another buzz. You're overreacting. Mother means well. I turned off my phone and pulled into the hotel parking lot. In my purse, the envelope of legal documents crinkled. They'd really thought I'd just sign everything away. Just like that. They'd thought I was weak. Well, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. In my hotel room, I pulled out my laptop and opened my contacts. First call would be to Felicity. She needed to hear this. Then Shanice from the office. If they wanted a war, I'd give them one. But first, I needed a plan. A way to make them regret ever thinking they could take what was mine. My phone stayed off. Let Vincent stew in his guilt tonight, if he even felt any. Tomorrow would be soon enough to start showing them exactly who they were dealing with. You're not going to believe what I found. Felicity burst into my office, waving her tablet like it contained state secrets. After last night's disaster dinner, I'd come straight to work, needing the familiar comfort of my corner office. Hit me with it, I said, pushing aside quarterly reports I'd been pretending to read. Vincent's been meeting with Nigel from Apex Tech, multiple times over the past month. She turned the tablet to show me calendar screenshots. My contact in their HR department says they've been having lengthy discussions about future collaborations. My stomach churned. Apex was our biggest competitor. That sneaky bastard. There's more. Felicity swiped through more screenshots. Vada's been CC'd on all the email correspondence. They're planning something big. A knock at my door made us both jump. Shanice, my project manager, stepped in. Sorry to interrupt, but Vincent's in the lobby. Says he needs to talk to you. Perfect timing. I straightened my blazer. Felicity, stay. Shanice, send him up. Minutes later, Vincent walked in, looking perfectly put together in his designer suit. The sight of him made my blood boil. Can we talk privately? He glanced at Felicity. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of my CFO, he sighed, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. About last night, I cut him off. Or about your secret meetings with Apex Tech. The color drained from his face. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That's why you want my company, isn't it? To hand it over to Nigel on a silver platter? It's not like that, he protested. Mother and I were exploring options. Your mother needs to stay the hell out of my business. I stood up, planting both hands on my desk. And so do you. You're being irrational. This merger could be good for everyone. Merger? Felicity scoffed. More like a hostile takeover. Vincent's face hardened. This is exactly why Mother thinks you need help running things. You're too emotional, too attached. Business requires a logical approach. Get out. My voice was deadly quiet. Zariah, get out. He straightened his tie, trying to maintain dignity. We'll talk when you've calmed down. The door closed behind him with a soft click. I collapsed back into my chair, hands shaking. I need everything you can find on Apex, I told Felicity. Financial reports, stock prices, internal rumors, everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. Need to talk. Lunch? It's important. An hour later, I sat across from Amber in a quiet cafe 2 blocks from my office. She looked nervous, shredding a napkin into tiny pieces. Vada's been planning this for months, she blurted out. She's convinced Vincent that you're running the company into the ground, that you're too ambitious for your own good. And he believed her? You know how he gets around her. She's had him wrapped around her finger since their father died. Amber leaned forward. But there's something else. I overheard her on the phone with Nigel last week. They're planning to force a board vote next month. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. They can't. I hold majority shares. For now. Amber's voice dropped to a whisper. But they're convincing minor shareholders to sell. They're trying to get enough votes to force you out. My phone buzzed again. A message from Shanice. Emergency. Come back now. Back at the office, Shanice met me at the elevator. Someone's been accessing confidential files, project specs, client lists, everything. Vincent, I growled. He still has his emergency access codes. I've locked everything down, Shanice assured me. But what? 3 of our biggest clients called. They're considering moving their contracts to Apex. I stood in the middle of my office, surrounded by the empire I'd built, watching it potentially crumble around me. Then something inside me shifted. The fear and hurt transformed into cold, calculated anger. Shanice, call legal. I want those access codes changed and every confidentiality agreement reviewed. I turned to Felicity. Get me everything you can on Nigel. And I mean everything. What are you planning? Felicity asked. I walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline. They want to play dirty? Fine. But they're about to learn that I didn't build this company by playing nice. My phone buzzed one more time. Vada. Vincent tells me you're being difficult. Remember, dear, I'm only trying to help. I smiled, a plan already forming. Felicity, one more thing. Get me Nigel's direct number. It's time I had a chat with our competitor. They thought they could outmaneuver me? They were about to learn exactly who they were dealing with. Are you sure about this? Shanice paced my office, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Going behind their backs to meet with Nigel? It feels risky. I adjusted my blazer in the office bathroom mirror. Riskier than letting them steal my company? I just don't want revenge to cloud your judgment. She handed me my lipstick. We've worked too hard to lose everything over emotions. Trust me. I applied the red shade carefully. This isn't about revenge. It's about survival. The elevator ride to Apex Tech's penthouse office felt endless. When the doors opened, Nigel was waiting. All fake smiles and expensive cologne. Zariah, what an unexpected pleasure. He gestured toward his office. Though I must admit, I'm curious why you insisted on meeting here rather than your office. Let's just say I don't trust my own walls right now. I settled into the leather chair across from his desk. But we both know why I'm here. His smile didn't waver. Do we? Vincent and Vada approached you about acquiring my company. I leaned forward. They're promising you something you want. The question is, what am I willing to offer that's better? Nigel's facade cracked slightly. I'm listening. A real merger, not the hostile takeover they're planning. Equal partnership, shared resources, combined market presence. I pulled out a tablet with preliminary projections. Our technologies complement each other. Together, we could dominate the market. He studied the numbers, his expression thoughtful. And Vincent? Would have no part in it. This deal is between you and me. His mother won't like that. His mother isn't the one with the technology patents or client relationships. I smiled. Or did they forget to mention that part? My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. 911. Vada knows you're at Apex. Vincent's on his way. Perfect timing. Think it over. I stood up. But don't take too long. My offer expires in 48 hours. The elevator opened just as I reached it, revealing Vincent's furious face. What are you doing here? He demanded. Business. I stepped around him. You remember what that is, right? Or do you need to check with your mother first? His hand grabbed my arm. Stop this. You're embarrassing yourself. I jerked away. The only embarrassment here is you, trying to steal what you couldn't build yourself. Is everything all right? Nigel had emerged from his office, watching us with interest. Fine. Vincent straightened his tie. Just a domestic disagreement. Really? I turned to Nigel. Tell him about our meeting, about the real merger we discussed. Vincent's face went pale. What merger? I'll let you two discuss that. I headed for the elevator. Oh, and Vincent, I want your things out of the house by tonight. Back at my office, Felicity was waiting with fresh intel. You're not going to believe this. Remember those client contracts that were wavering? Turns out Vada personally reached out to them, spreading rumors about our company's stability. That witch. Shanice had joined us. We could sue for defamation. No. I shook my head. Legal battles would just drain resources we need right now. Besides, I have a better idea. I turned to Shanice. Remember that blockchain project we've been developing? The one that could revolutionize secure data transfer? It's still in testing, but fast-track it. I want a demo ready in 2 days. Felicity's eyes widened. You're going to show it to Nigel. Better. I'm going to let him think he's stealing it. I pulled up our project files. We'll leak just enough information to make him salivate. When he realizes what we're capable of, he'll choose us over Vincent and Vada. Shanice finished. Brilliant. My phone lit up with messages. Vincent, We need to talk. Delete. Vada, you're making a terrible mistake. Delete. Amber, just heard Mom screaming at Vincent. What did you do? That last one made me smile. One more thing, I told my team. I want a full audit of every project Vincent had access to. If he copied anything, I want to know. Already on it. Felicity pulled up a document. And you should see this. Vada's been quietly buying up shares through shell companies. They're trying to build voting power. Too little, too late. I checked my watch. The merger paperwork will be ready tomorrow. Once Nigel signs, they'll be powerless. Shanice finished. My phone buzzed again. Nigel, your offer is intriguing. Dinner tomorrow to discuss details? Ladies, I showed them the message. I believe the tables are about to turn. Felicity raised an eyebrow. Revenge served cold? No, I corrected her. Justice served exactly how it should be. I typed back to Nigel. Dinner tomorrow, 8 p.m. Bring your lawyers. The game was on, and this time I was writing the rules. The private dining room at LeBlanc hummed with tension as Nigel's lawyers pored over the merger documents. I sipped my wine, watching Nigel's face for any reaction to our blockchain demonstration. This is... He paused, scrolling through the technical specifications on his tablet. This is revolutionary. That's just the prototype, I smiled. Imagine what we could do with combined resources. A knock at the door made everyone look up. The maitre d' appeared, looking uncomfortable. Pardon the interruption, but there's a situation in the lobby. I didn't need to ask. Vada's voice carried through the restaurant, demanding to be let in. So predictable. Keep reviewing the documents, I told Nigel, standing up. I'll handle this. Vada stood in the lobby, designer suit perfectly pressed, Vincent hovering behind her like a lost puppy. Well, well, she sneered. Secret meetings now? How desperate. Actually, we're in the middle of signing a merger agreement. I kept my voice light, aware of other diners watching. Would you like to witness your son losing his chance at a hostile takeover? Vincent stepped forward. You can't do this. Watch me. You ungrateful little... Vada started, but I cut her off. Careful, Vada. We wouldn't want everyone here to witness you threatening a CEO during legitimate business negotiations, would we? You think you're so clever, she hissed. But I have private investigators following your every move. One wrong step. Is that supposed to scare me? I laughed. Go ahead. Investigate. All you'll find is a woman protecting what's rightfully hers. Your father-in-law would be disgusted, she spat. My father-in-law built his company honestly, unlike his son who's trying to steal one. Vincent flinched. Good. My phone buzzed. A text from Shanice. Nigel's lawyers finished reviewing. They're ready. Now, if you'll excuse me, I stepped around them. I have a merger to finalize. This isn't over, Vada called after me. You're right. I turned back. It's just beginning. Back in the private room, Nigel's expression had shifted from interested to eager. Your blockchain technology alone is worth the merger, but there's one concern. Vincent? And his mother. They're persistent. I pulled out my phone, showing him screenshots. You mean like these emails where they promised you my company's assets without having any legal right to them? Or these records of Vada attempting to manipulate share prices? His lawyers exchanged glances. I have everything documented, I continued. Every underhanded move, every attempt to undermine my company. The question is, do you want to be on the winning side of this, or the losing one? Nigel picked up his pen. Where do I sign? 2 hours later, I walked into my office where Felicity and Shanice were waiting. Well? Felicity jumped up. I held up the signed merger agreement. We're now equal partners with Apex Tech, and I'm co-CEO. Shanice squealed, pulling me into a hug. Take that, Vincent. My celebration was interrupted by another text from Amber. Mom's on the warpath. She's calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Perfect timing, I smiled. Felicity, send out the merger announcement to all shareholders. First thing tomorrow morning. Already drafted. She showed me her tablet. This will hit every major business news outlet at 8 a.m. sharp. One more thing. Shanice handed me a folder. We found something interesting in the audit. Vincent accessed our server last week from an unknown IP address. I flipped through the documents. He copied files? Tried to. But remember that security patch we installed last month? It corrupted any unauthorized downloads. All he got was gibberish. My phone rang. Vincent. Don't answer it, Felicity advised. Oh, I think I will. I put it on speaker. Hello, dear. What have you done? His voice shook with rage. Protected my company. Something you should have thought about before conspiring with your mother. The board will never approve this merger. The board won't have a choice. Check your email tomorrow morning. I paused. Oh, and Vincent? I want those corrupted files you stole back. All of them. He hung up. You know they won't give up. Shanice said quietly, I'm counting on it. I walked to the window, watching the city lights twinkle. Because when they make their next move, we'll be ready. My phone buzzed one final time. Nigel. Vada just called, threatening legal action. Should I be worried? I typed back, no. Let her dig her own grave. Tomorrow, the real fireworks would begin. Let them call their emergency board meeting. Let them try to stop what was already in motion. Because this time, I wasn't just fighting back. I was changing the game entirely. The boardroom erupted into chaos as soon as the merger announcement flashed across the wall-mounted screens. Vada's face turned an impressive shade of purple as she read the headlines. Tech giants unite. Z-Tech and Apex Tech announce revolutionary merger. This is outrageous. She slammed her hand on the mahogany table. The board never approved this. The board doesn't need to. I replied calmly, sliding copies of the merger agreement across the table. As majority shareholder, I had full authority to negotiate this deal. Actually, one of the board members adjusted his glasses, scanning the document. These terms are incredibly favorable. Our stock price has already jumped 12% since the announcement. Vincent burst through the boardroom doors, late as usual. Stop the press release. Too late. Felicity smirked from her seat beside me. It's already trending on Twitter. You manipulative bit, Vincent started, but Nigel chose that moment to walk in. Sorry I'm late, he announced, taking the empty seat next to me. Traffic was horrible. Did I miss anything important? Vada's eyes narrowed. You betrayed us. Betrayed? Nigel raised an eyebrow. I chose the better business opportunity. Something you should understand, Vada, given your creative approaches to acquisition. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One cleared his throat. What creative approaches? I pulled out another folder. Funny you should ask. We have evidence of attempted corporate espionage, market manipulation, and defamation. I started distributing copies, including recorded conversations with our clients, spreading false information about our company's stability. Those recordings are illegal, Vada sputtered, not when they're made by the clients themselves. I smiled. Turns out not everyone appreciates being manipulated. Vincent grabbed a copy, his face paling as he read. Mother, what did you do? Only what was necessary to protect you. She turned to the board. Everything I did was to preserve this company's legacy. By destroying it? I stood up. The merger with Apex Tech will double our market share, expand our technological capabilities, and secure our position as industry leaders. Your plan would have gutted us for parts. She's right. Another board member spoke up, reviewing the projections. These numbers are impressive. Vada wasn't finished. Vincent is the rightful heir to what? I cut her off. A company he didn't build? Innovation he didn't create? Face it, Vada. Your son isn't half the business person his father was. Vincent lunged forward, but Nigel stepped between us. Careful, he warned. Assault charges wouldn't look good in tomorrow's papers. My phone buzzed. A message from Shanice. Private investigators spotted outside. 2 of them. Perfect. Oh, and Vada? I pulled up some photos on my phone. Next time you hire private investigators, make sure they're not former employees of Apex Tech. Nigel's security team spotted them immediately. The color drained from her face. That's harassment, Vincent protested. Exactly, I agreed. The restraining order should be processed by end of day. The board chairman cleared his throat. I think we've heard enough. The merger appears legally sound and financially beneficial. Unless there are any legitimate objections, silence. Then this meeting is adjourned. Congratulations on the merger, Zaraya. As the board members filed out, Vada grabbed my arm. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I pulled free. And if you ever touch me again, I'll add assault to the restraining order. Back in my office, Felicity and Shanice were waiting with champagne. Did you see their faces? Shanice popped the cork. Priceless. Don't celebrate yet, I warned, checking my phone. They'll try something else. Let them. Felicity handed me a glass. We've got them cornered. A knock at the door. Amber stepped in, looking nervous. Can we talk? The others took their cue to leave. Mom's losing it, Amber said once we were alone. She's talking about legal action, going to the press. With what evidence? I sipped my champagne. Everything she has implicates her more than me. Vincent's a mess. He keeps saying you betrayed him. Funny how betrayal feels, isn't it? Amber moved to the window. They never saw you coming. Dad would have been proud. What? Dad always said the company needed fresh blood, new ideas. She turned back to me. That's why he encouraged Vincent to marry you. He saw something in you that Mom never could. My phone buzzed again. Vincent. We need to talk, please, about us. I showed Amber the message. Are you going to answer? No. I deleted it. There's nothing left to say. Another buzz. Nigel. Emergency at Apex. Need you here now. Possible security breach. I grabbed my coat. The day wasn't over yet, and something told me Vada had one more card to play. But this time, I was ready for anything. Apex Tech's offices were in chaos when I arrived. Security guards rushed past me as Nigel paced the lobby, phone pressed to his ear. Someone accessed our servers, he explained, hanging up. They're trying to corrupt the merger files. Vincent, I growled, pulling out my phone to call Shanice. Already on it, she answered before I could speak. The attack's coming from inside our old backup server, the one Vincent still had access to. Can you stop it? Better, I can trace it. Nigel's security chief approached us, tablet in hand. Sir, we've located the source. It's coming from a private office downtown. Let me guess. I looked at the address. Vada's law firm? Got it in one. My phone buzzed with a text from Amber. Mom just called Vincent, screaming about files being corrupted. What did you do? I smiled. Shanice, remember that security patch that corrupted Vincent's stolen files? Yeah? Did we ever tell them it was actually a tracking virus? Nigel's eyes widened. You knew they'd try this. Better. I showed him my screen where Shanice had sent a tracking log. Every time they try to access those files, it sends their location and corrupts more of their system. Clever, he admitted. But we still need to stop the attack. Already done. Shanice's voice came through the speaker. I've locked them out completely, but there's something else. Someone inside Apex is helping them. Nigel's face darkened. Who? Your head of IT, Marcus. He's been feeding them access codes. The same Marcus who's been suspiciously absent today? Nigel grabbed his phone. Security, find Marcus, now. My phone rang. Vincent. What did you do? He demanded when I answered. Mother's lawyers can't access any of their computers. Karma's a witch, isn't it? I hung up. Nigel's security team returned with Marcus in tow, looking decidedly uncomfortable. Mrs. Patterson paid me. he blurted before anyone could speak. She said it was just insurance, in case the merger went bad. How much? Nigel's voice was deadly quiet. 50,000. Congratulations. I stepped forward. You just committed corporate espionage for pocket change. Hope it was worth federal charges. Marcus went pale. Federal? Did you really think we wouldn't have FBI cybercrime division on speed dial for a merger this size? Nigel nodded to his security team. Hold him for questioning. My phone buzzed again. Felicity. You need to see this. Vada's going to the press. I pulled up the live feed on my tablet. There was Vada standing outside her law firm, surrounded by reporters. This merger is illegal, she was saying. My daughter-in-law has manipulated everyone involved. The feed suddenly cut out, replaced by breaking news. Tech merger scandal. Evidence of corporate espionage attempts revealed. What the? Nigel stared at the screen. Shanice's voice came through my phone. Remember those tracking logs? I may have sent them to every major news outlet, along with recordings of Vada's conversations with Marcus. On screen, reporters were now swarming Vada, asking about the allegations. Her perfect composure cracked as she fled to her car. Zariah! Vincent burst out of the elevator. Stop this. You're destroying our family. No, Vincent. Your mother did that when she tried to steal my company. She was trying to protect me. From what? Success? Independence? God forbid your wife be more successful than you. His face contorted. You think you're so perfect? I know about your meetings with Nigel. The late nights, the secret dinners. Nigel actually laughed. Is that what your mother told you? That your wife was having an affair instead of saving her company? Vincent faltered. She said what she needed to say to manipulate you. I finished. Just like always. My phone lit up with message after message. News outlets wanting comments. Board members pledging support. And one from Amber. Mom's being questioned by FBI agents. Vincent needs to know the truth. Show him, Nigel suggested. I pulled up the evidence on my tablet. Every manipulative email, every secret meeting, every attempt to undermine my company, all orchestrated by his mother. Vincent sank into a chair, face ashen. I didn't know. You thought what she wanted you to think. I turned away. We're done here. Zariah, please. Security will show you out. As Vincent was led away, Nigel touched my arm. You knew they'd try something like this. I knew Vada would never let go quietly. I checked my phone again. The news was everywhere now. She needed to destroy herself publicly. Ruthless. He smiled. I like it. Another buzz. Vada. You'll regret this. I typed back. No, Vada. You already do. Tomorrow would bring damage control, press conferences, and probably more attempts at retaliation. But for now, watching Vada's carefully constructed world crumble on national television was satisfaction enough. The press conference room buzzed with anticipation. Camera flashes popped as I took my place at the podium, Nigel standing supportively to my right. Good morning, I began, my voice steady. Today marks a historic moment for both Z-Tech and Apex Technologies. The doors burst open. Vada stormed in, Vincent trailing behind her like a lost shadow. Security moved to intercept them, but I held up my hand. Let them stay, I said into the microphone. They should hear this. Cameras swiveled to capture Vada's rage-twisted face. As I was saying, I continued, this merger represents more than just business. It represents integrity winning over manipulation, innovation trumping entitlement. Liar, Vada shouted. You stole this company from my son. The reporters went wild, cameras flashing frantically. Actually, I pulled out a document. I'd like to address that. Yesterday, federal authorities uncovered evidence of corporate espionage, attempted theft of intellectual property, and market manipulation. Would you like to comment on your role in those activities, Vada? She lunged forward, but security caught her arms. You orchestrated this. You trapped us. No. I held up a USB drive. You trapped yourself. Every email, every secret meeting, every attempt to steal my company. It's all here. Would anyone from the press like a copy? Hands shot up across the room. You can't prove anything. Vada spat. Nigel stepped forward. Actually, we can. Your IT consultant, Marcus, has been very cooperative with federal investigators. Vincent's face went pale. Mother, what did you do? Everything I did was for you. She turned to him. To secure your future. By committing crimes? He backed away. By lying to me about my own wife? The reporters were scribbling frantically, cameras rolling. Speaking of crimes, I nodded to Felicity, who stepped forward with more documents. We've uncovered evidence of similar attempts to manipulate other companies over the past decade. The FBI is very interested in establishing a pattern. Vada's composure finally cracked. You vindictive little... Choose your next words carefully. I cut her off. You're on live television. She fell silent, finally seeming to register the cameras. Now, I turned back to the reporters. Any questions about the merger? Hands shot up everywhere. I pointed to a reporter in front. Is it true that Mrs. Patterson attempted to force a hostile takeover through fraudulent means? The evidence speaks for itself, I replied diplomatically. But yes, that attempt failed spectacularly. Another reporter. Mr. Patterson, did you know about your mother's illegal activities? Vincent stepped forward, his voice shaking. No, I was manipulated too. I owe my wife an apology. The room fell silent. Even Vada stopped struggling against security. Save it, I said quietly. The divorce papers are already filed. Cameras clicked frantically as Vincent's face crumbled. One more announcement, I continued. In light of recent events, both Z-Tech and Apex Tech will be implementing new anti-corruption measures. We believe in earning success, not stealing it. Vada laughed bitterly. You think you've won? I still have connections. Had connections, Nigel corrected. Amazing how quickly people distance themselves from federal investigations. My phone buzzed. A message from Amber. FBI just left Mom's office with boxes of evidence. It's over. Mrs. Matthews, another reporter called out. What's next for the merged companies? Growth, innovation, success. I smiled directly at Vada. All achieved legally and ethically. You've destroyed this family, Vada shouted as security began escorting her out. No, Vada, you did that yourself. After the press conference, Felicity found me in my office. The stock price is soaring, she reported. And you're trending on Twitter. Boss Babe and Karma Israel are the top hashtags. Any word from Vincent? He's agreed to a quiet divorce, probably trying to distance himself from his mother's scandal. My phone lit up with a call from Amber. You okay? I answered. Mom's being charged. Her voice was thick with tears. Multiple counts. They're saying she could face serious time. I'm sorry, Amber. Don't be. She did this to herself. She paused. Dad would have been proud of you, you know, for standing up to her. After hanging up, I walked to my office window. Below, news vans were still parked outside, reporters waiting for more drama. Nigel appeared in my doorway. Ready for the merger announcement party? Almost. I checked my phone one last time. A final message from Vincent. I'm sorry. For everything. I deleted it without responding. You know, Nigel said quietly, revenge doesn't usually feel this satisfying. This isn't revenge, I corrected him. This is justice. And justice, it turned out, felt better than revenge ever could. Guilty on all counts. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom. I watched Vada's shoulders stiffen as the reality of her situation sank in. Her designer suit couldn't hide her defeat now. The defendant will surrender herself for processing immediately, the judge continued. Sentencing will be scheduled for next week. As bailiffs approached Vada, she turned to face me in the gallery. Are you happy now? This isn't about happiness, I replied quietly. It's about consequences. Vincent sat 3 rows behind her, head bowed. He hadn't looked at me once during the trial. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Felicity handled them expertly while Shanice guided me through the crowd to our waiting car. 8 counts of corporate espionage. Shanice whistled once we were inside. Plus, fraud and conspiracy. She'll be lucky to get less than 15 years. My phone buzzed. Amber. Can we meet? Need to talk. An hour later, I sat across from her at our old favorite cafe. Vincent's selling his shares, she said without preamble. He's moving to Europe. Says he needs a fresh start. Smart move. He wanted me to give you this. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a letter and a familiar USB drive, the one he'd used to try stealing company files. Read it, she urged. I unfolded the paper. Zariah, the drive contains everything. Every email, every conversation with Mother about taking your company. I've already given copies to the prosecutors, but you should have this too. I'm sorry I was too weak to stand up to her. Too blind to see what was right in front of me. You built something amazing, and I let jealousy and Mother's manipulation poison everything. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. Vincent. He's really leaving? I asked Amber. First flight tomorrow. She stirred her coffee. You know what's ironic? Mom's schemes cost her everything she was trying to protect. The family name, the social status, Vincent's future. My phone lit up with a message from Nigel. Turn on the news, now. Amber and I huddled over my phone to watch the breaking story. Tech titan Vada Patterson's empire crumbles, board forces liquidation of family holdings. Holy shit, Amber whispered. Back at the office, champagne was flowing. Our merged company's stock had hit another record high, and the board had just approved our expansion plans. To karma, Felicity raised her glass. To justice, Shanice corrected. To both, I smiled, but my celebration was interrupted by a familiar face at my office door. Vincent. Can we talk? He asked quietly. Before I leave? I nodded to my team, who filed out discreetly. I read your letter, I said. I meant every word. He stayed by the door, maintaining his distance. I kept telling myself I was protecting our marriage, our future, but I was just being a coward. Yes, you were. The funny thing is, he gave a hollow laugh. Dad always said you were the best thing that could have happened to this family. He saw your potential. Mother saw it too. That's why she felt threatened. Why are you here, Vincent? To say goodbye. And to tell you that Dad was right. You're exactly what this company needed. He turned to leave, then paused. Take care of Amber? Always. After he left, I walked to my window, the same one I'd stared out of so many times during this battle. But today felt different. Final. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. Vada Patterson, sentenced 18 years for corporate crimes. Nigel appeared in my doorway. Board meeting in 10. Ready to show them the future? I grabbed my tablet, pulling up our new project specs. More than ready. No regrets? He asked as we walked to the boardroom. About how everything played out? The only person responsible for Vada's downfall was Vada, I replied. She chose greed over family, manipulation over honesty. And Vincent? Chose weakness over integrity. I paused outside the boardroom. But that's their story. This? I gestured to the bustling office around us. This is mine. Inside, the board members waited expectantly. As I took my place at the head of the table, I felt something I hadn't experienced since this all began. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, let's talk about the future. Because that's what mattered now. Not revenge, not vindication, but building something lasting. Something honest. Something that would make my own legacy worth remembering. And this time, no one could take it from me.